What a win last night in the NBA play-in tournament for the Philadelphia 76ers, coming back from down 14 to get the monkey off their backs against the Miami Heat, getting back at Jimmy Butler, and now that sets up a very intriguing first-round matchup in the East between the Sixers and the Knicks. We're going to preview that series coming up here on today's 76ers Now, but first, Philadelphia would not have won that game if it weren't for the heroics and the clutch play from Nic Batum. So type his initials, NB, down in the comments section right now to show him some love as Philadelphia gives France some love. And with that, let's start the show. And this is Philadelphia 76ers Now by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr. Thank you so much for hanging out here with us. And thanks to everybody who tuned in to our Sixers Heat watch party. We're going to continue to do watch parties all throughout this hopefully long playoff run for the Sixers. And on the show here, we're going to preview this first-round matchup. Philadelphia, New York, a great rivalry coming to fruition. Here's a look at the 76ers Knicks schedule. The series will get underway on Saturday night. Tip-off set at Madison Square Garden for 6 o'clock Eastern Time. Then for Game 2, a little bit of a later start, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time at Madison Square Garden. The series comes down I-95 to South Philadelphia. Game 3, Thursday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. That is going to be the first night, by the way, of the NFL draft, so we'll be busy doing that. No watch party for that game. Game 4 on Sunday at 1 o'clock Eastern Time. We'll be back in the saddle, and then these games if necessary. Game 5, Tuesday the 30th of April. Game 6, Thursday, May 2nd, and then Game 7, Saturday, May 4th. Again, those games if necessary. And for Philadelphia, I think they're going to be a very tall test for New York, and that's evidenced by the odds here, which I think are fascinating. So I think we're looking at a 6-7 game series, to be frank, because these two squads match up very well against one another. Philadelphia somehow, some way against the 2 seed as the 7 seed, maybe it's because they've won 9 games in a row, are the slight favorites at -115. The Knicks, the slight underdogs at -105. As for Game 1, a look at the odds there. Again, tip-off set for Saturday, April 20th, 6 o'clock Eastern, 3 p.m. for those of you on the West Coast. The Knicks, home favorites, -2.5. You have Philadelphia, emotional win against New York. It's not like they have to travel that far, but usually the home team does get a little bit of the edge there in a playoff series for that Game 1. They also had the rest advantage over the Sixers. The over-under, 207, very similar to what it was for Sixers Heat. It is going to be a defensive slugfest, I believe, for this series. As for the season series here, there was pretty much one game where Philadelphia and New York were both fully healthy. That came on January 5th. And the Sixers got annihilated. 128-92 win for New York. And then the Knicks beat the Sixers 110-96 on February 22nd. There was that low-scoring, knock-em-out, drag-em-out type of game at Madison Square Garden on March 10th. Kelly Oubre was good down the stretch. Paul Reed had a clutch 3, 79-73 there. And then that was the front end of a home and home where the Knicks went to Wells Fargo Center and they just blew the doors off of Philadelphia once again, 106-79. So this is not a Knicks team that we've been accustomed to seeing over the last several years. Like, they're legitimate. Joel Embiid has fared well against the Knicks throughout his career, though, and that's why, in a way, psyche, Embiid's confidence, he plays off of emotion, as Nick Nurse kind of said in his book. I think that allowed him to bring the best out of Embiid in that fourth quarter against Miami. That helps the Sixers a little bit. Embiid is 16-3 against the Knicks in his career. And then Nick Nurse, coaching with Toronto, now Philadelphia, he's also coached well against the Knicks. He is sporting a 14-7 record as a coach at the NBA level. The Knicks roster, their starting 5, Jalen Brunson, MVP candidate this year. He has been just a bona fide superstar this year. The growth that has taken place from Villanova to the Mavericks to now has been very impressive. I have questions about who the number 2 scorer is going to be for the Knicks, and I think those are viable questions, but the rest of that starting 5, Donte DiVincenzo had a career year, fellow Villanova Wildcat, and then that Villanova connection continues with Josh Hart, who's a very good 3-and-D wing. OG Anunoby, terrific defensive player, solid offensive game, but only averaged 14.7 points per game this year. And then Isaiah Hartenstein is their starting center. Mitchell Robinson was hurt all throughout this year. He is now back, but Hartenstein did not squander those starting duties. Julius Randle, another star for New York, shoulder injury. Got shoulder surgery a couple of weeks ago. He is out for the remainder of the playoffs. So the Knicks do not have him. That impacts their scoring to a certain degree. I actually think him being out allows this team to be a little bit more well-rounded and a little bit better. He has had some just brutal playoff no-shows, but no doubt it does impact them at least a little bit. Your confidence level in the Sixers to beat the Knicks. I want you to scale that confidence level for me down in the comment section from 1 to 10, because I'm right now at about a 7. That's how confident I am that the Sixers can advance to the second round. And if they do, they could avoid the Boston Celtics. Coming up next, 5 keys to victory for the Sixers to take down New York. First, my key for having the best daily fantasy sports experience, it's with Prize Picks. They make daily fantasy sports so easy, where you pick 2 or more players, you choose more or less on their projected stat lines, and you're guaranteed to win big-time money. You can win up to 25 times your money with Prize Picks. $100 deposit match available using that link down below, prizepicks.com/CLNS. And as we look ahead, here's some selections that we like. Nikola Jokic. Prize Picks is running a special right now. Very easy against the Lakers. More than a half point. You kidding me? Joel Embiid's passing numbers, they've been better this year, career high, right? And then what did we see from Miami? Double-teamed Embiid a lot. Even if he's not 100% healthy, he still demands a lot of double teams. He's going to be able to find his teammates. Let's ride with more than 5 dimes. Kelly Oubre held in check by Miami. Will the Knicks be able to do that? I like the more than 12.5 points there. And then Tyrese Maxey, time for him to get back in rhythm, more than 22.5 points. Win big-time money, withdraw your winnings, all within Prize Picks. Pick more, pick less. prizepicks.com/CLNS. Key to victory number 1 for the 76ers here. You have to contain Jalen Brunson. What the Knicks want to do on the offensive side of the floor starts and ends with one of the best point guards in the National Basketball Association, and that's Brunson. He's developed into a 3-level scorer. He has never been a twitchy athlete. He moves somewhat methodically, but the way that he gets to his spot on the floor is so creative, and he can hit knockdown shots. He can hit the 3. The mid-range Jimmy is sweet. This year, he averaged 28.7 points per game. Good distributor of the basketball, almost 7 dimes per night, 48% from the field, and 40% from three-point range. His numbers against the Sixers, and these numbers a little bit skewed between New York and Philly because of the blowouts and also because both teams kind of shorthanded, but the Sixers did a decent job of holding him in check. 22 points per game, and the field goal numbers down to 40% from the field, 30% from three-point range. Nick Nurse is going to have to draw up a masterful defensive game plan to keep Brunson under wraps. Number 2, can't let the New York Knicks role players go off, and this is a very role player-centric team. They made the trade acquisition for OG Anunoby. It no doubt helped New York because they were one of the best teams in the NBA when he was playing and when he was playing with Brunson and Julius Randle. But because the Knicks are kind of honed in on Jalen Brunson being their guy offensively, they don't really have that number 2. You have Miles McBride, who I like this game at West Virginia. Isaiah Hartenstein, very solid player, but is he going to be able to guard Joel Embiid if Embiid's relatively healthy? Bogdan Bogdanović, he can light it up from three-point range. And Josh Hart. This is just a classic all-around basketball unit. So if you shut down that bench unit, you can have your way with New York. Notable games against Philadelphia on the 5th of January. McBride, 15 minutes, 15 points, 4 of 6 from 3. Hartenstein on the 5th, too, 17, 6, 5, and 2 blocks. Bogdanovic, 22 points, and he was 6 of 6 from 3 on the 22nd of February. And then Josh Hart, 20 points, 19 rebounds, 10 dimes on the 12th of March. It's a great stat line there. Not consistent, but a good stat line. Some of the themes here, the Knicks, pretty hot from downtown. The three-point shot could go a long way in deciding this series as well. Number 3, Joel Embiid must be the best player on the floor. First 3 quarters against Miami, it was a classic Joel Embiid clunker of a game. Bad body language. He was in his own head. He was pressing. He was laboring. He couldn't maintain his energy levels as far as the pace. I thought the Heat did a good job of just kind of hitting him a little bit early, letting him know that they were there. But then at the end of the game, I think this is due to the brilliance in coaching and the leadership of Nick Nurse. He kept Embiid in that game where he hit that three-pointer. He hit that clutch and one, and then made a couple of really, really critical passes in that fourth quarter too. Embiid against the Knicks on January 5th, it was another walk in the park for Embiid. 30 points, 10 rebounds. He was 10 of 23 from the floor. That's a very close stat line to what we've been accustomed to seeing from Embiid over the last couple of years, but he was a minus 29 against the Knicks. They are going to throw a zone at Embiid and the Sixers, just like Miami did, because Tom Thibodeau, defensive-oriented head coach, and that zone defense caused a lot of issues. They're also going to throw a lot of double and triple teams at Joel Embiid, too. Embiid against the Knicks centers. Against Hartenstein, 7 games played. He's averaged 31 points per game, 11 rebounds, 42% from the floor, 47% from 3. Embiid can own him physically, but because Embiid is laboring on that left leg, we didn't really see him post up a lot against Miami, although it's a tough assignment against Bam. And then against Mitchell Robinson, 9 games played, 27 points per game, 11 rebounds. The shooting number is not as good, sub 45%, and then 20% from 3 because Mitch Rob, that physicality and the vertical leaping ability to disrupt Joel Embiid at least a little bit. So Chip, Embiid definitely did not look 100%. That was part of our post-game reaction on Wednesday night. Can't really afford to have many more games like that against the Knicks. What I ask for, though, continue to be engaged, set up your teammates, and make some clutch plays when they matter, and don't try to force it. And those were moments of growth, I thought, against Miami on Wednesday night.
Absolutely. And look, I understand he's coming back from this injury, and he's not going to be 100%, most likely, but you scrape by against the Heat when he was bad the first 3 quarters. Obviously, he was tremendous in the fourth quarter. Even so, he was tremendous with making plays, as you said, not just scoring. But that was one game. To beat the Knicks, you got to win 4. You're not going to be able to win 4 games against the Knicks if Embiid is consistently just kind of going through the motions for the first half, first few quarters of each game.
Yeah.
The Sixers have an advantage here in that, the Knicks, you got Brunson. He's a star player. But outside of that, they don't have a lot of star talent. Embiid is far and away the best player in this series. But he has to play like it. That's the Sixers' biggest advantage. Embiid's got to come out and show, look, yeah, I had that injury, but I'm still that MVP guy. I'm still that dude, top 3 player in the league. He's got to come out and carry this team, really, if this team wants to advance past the Knicks and get a chance to make a deep run.
And this is the time, man, you get past Miami and you get that monkey and that weight off your shoulders. Favorable matchup against New York. You win this, you don't have to play the Celtics in that second round. And there is a path here, realistically, for Philadelphia this year. Got to be able to take advantage. Back to our keys to victory here. Keep Donte DiVincenzo in check. A lot of people in the Philadelphia metro area, Villanova fans worldwide, very familiar with what he did with Villanova, the NBA Finals, or the national championship run in which Villanova went on that run, and DiVincenzo was great in the Final Four and in the final, is what I meant to say. Put him on a lot of draft boards because good athlete, springy step, vertical leaper, three-point shooter, good defender, and he certainly had moments in his NBA career. Sacramento, last year with Golden State. This year, though, pairing back up with Brunson on the same team as Josh Hart, the Villanova trio, played the best basketball of his career. Frankly, not even close. I think he's in the running and should be in the running for Defensive Player of the Year, or Most Improved Player of the Year, excuse me. But a good defensive player, no doubt about it. 15.5 points per game this year. And then the shooting splits. Those are what's huge for him because to start his career, he had been such a spotty shooter, 44% from the deck and then 40% from three-point range. And when you take a peek at the NBA three-point maker leaderboard, look at who is third on this list. Now, it's a far ways away from Steph Curry, 357, but right behind Luka Doncic at 284. And Luka has a lot more to his offensive arsenal with the step back and the shiftiness to his game, ahead of Klay Thompson and ahead of Paul George. So the Knicks offense relied on DiVincenzo and a consistent three-point shot to carry them in stretches. He got a lot of open looks, and he was able to take advantage of them. His game and games against the Sixers, his game, if you're not really familiar with it, he can put the ball on the floor. He's a pretty strong and crafty finisher at the cup because he does have some bulk to his frame. What he's really going to try to do, hover around that three-point arc, come off some screens, set some screens, be a pick and pop, pick and roll guy from time to time, maybe be the ball handler, but be that three-point shooter. And his games against the Sixers here, the efficiency, it was definitely up and down to a certain degree, especially from three-point range. So what's the theme here? Philadelphia did okay against Jalen Brunson. They did okay against DiVincenzo, where he was January 5th, 4 of 6 from 3, then 4 of 11, 3 of 12, 4 of 9, and then the field goal numbers lacking a little bit, well below his season averages. And then at number 5, who's going to step up? You had Nic Batum carry the boats in the play-in tournament. And we've talked on the show how he could be an X factor, how I wanted him in the starting lineup because he's played in big international games for France, in international competition, including the Olympics. He's played in big playoff games at the NBA level. You got your Batum game. You're going to have to get a Kelly Oubre game. You're going to have to get a Paul Reed game. You're going to have to get contributions from Buddy Hield. And Tobias Harris just needs to step up. His numbers against the Knicks this year were abysmal. The highest scoring output that he had was 11 games. He averaged 6 points and 5.5 rebounds against the Knicks this year. That is dreadful. That is terrible. And Embiid had to tell Buddy Hield to shoot the basketball because that's what the Sixers brought him here for. Hield in moments in that game against Miami. Stepped up. Campaign, big three. That's another player. Campaign who's going to have to step up. In order to make a deep playoff run, you just need contributions up and down your roster. And that includes these players, Batum, Campaign, in addition to the stars and the studs on your team. Bonus thought, highly doubt DeAnthony Melton plays. Anything that you get from him would be an absolute bonus. As for our Sixers-Knicks series predictions, I have been hurt by this basketball team a lot throughout my lifetime. I have been a very pessimistic basketball fan as far as the Sixers go because all they've done is stab me in the heart and hurt me time and time again. But what have I also said? This year is a little bit different because the Sixers in a playoff series finally have a legitimate coach. Nick Nurse in the play-in tournament went blow for blow, stride for stride with Eric Spoelstra. I want you to think about that because Glenn Rivers would have lost that game 10 times out of 10. The adjustments never would have been made. The Sixers wouldn't have had the psyche to come back from 14 with the crowd booing them and the crowd clenching up in that pressure cooker. They won that game partially because of Nick Nurse. I think that they can win this playoff series. They're going to have to play well. Embiid's going to have to be healthy. But I like the Sixers to win in 6 or 7 games. I really do, and I truly feel that way. Chip?
Absolutely. I agree. I'm right with you. I think 6 or 7 games, the Sixers can take this. But look, make no mistake about it. The Knicks are a very, very good team. As you mentioned, they're not the Knicks of old, right? They're the 2 seed, 50 wins for a reason. And it's going to be similar to the Miami game. It's going to be a slugfest. It's going to be tough. It's going to be physical. It's going to be defensive oriented. There's going to be games where Sixers might go 2, 3, 4 minutes without scoring a point. There's going to be games where the Knicks might go 2, 3, 4 minutes without scoring a point. We've seen these teams play tough physical games. It's not going to be pretty. But, as you said, we have Nick Nurse. This team feels a little bit different this year. They were able to close out a game against the Heat that really gave me encouragement for their end-of-game execution, even though they went down early. Again, they have more talent, I truly believe. They have more top-end talent. And, a lot of times in the playoffs, that's what it takes. You need a top-5 player to win.
Yep.
Sixers have that. I think that they should and will win this series in 6 games.
If you were looking at these rosters on NBA 2K, who would you rather play with, Philadelphia or New York? Who has more talent, Philadelphia or New York? It comes down to the health of Joel Embiid. You make a great point. These games are going to be defensive slugfest. Tom Thibodeau, defensive mind. Nick Nurse, defensive mind. These are going to be grinded out games. And I think that the Sixers have more overall offensive firepower than the New York Knicks and more than one legitimate option, unlike New York, which is heavily reliant on Jalen Brunson. We gave you our predictions. We want you to give your predictions. PHI for the Sixers, NYK for the New York Knicks. And if you're still watching, give us a real one. We'll see you Saturday night. Sixers, Knicks watch party. Philadelphia, New York rivalry. I cannot wait.